And everybody knows there's graphics.
Okay,
here
it's
now.
recording now.
It is recording. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Thanks for taking your time out today to come and listen to me talk about circus animals. By a show of hands, how many people here have been to the circus? And can you tell me just real quick, what was your favorite part of the circus? Kia?
The elephants.
The elephants. Ken?
I don't remember. I was like 2.
Brian?
The trapeze and the elephants.
The elephants. Maribel?
Me too. I was so small. I don't
You
remember.
don't remember?
Mhm.
Elephant.
Elephants?
Clown.
The clowns? And the elephants? Okay, so I'm gonna have to use my thing here. So many people see the mainstream circus photos and videos and they say, oh cool, the elephants and the lions and the tigers and the trapeze, they're so fun, but nobody ever really sees the background of where those animals live and how they are cared for. So I'm basically here to show you, because I worked with these animals for about a year. We had 55 tigers and 1 lion, and about 6 months into working there I found out that we had had elephants and bears at one point too.
Oh my.
But the elephants were actually relinquished. They were taken away from us because they were treated so horribly. And this is when I started to realize just how bad these animals were cared for. So to begin to even understand, I'm going to show you just kind of like a day in the life of a working animal.
Okay.
So if you remember, by the way, this is Bahar. This was one of my favorite kitties when I worked there. He was very curious, if you can tell.
Uh-huh.
So if you remember, oh, there goes my first line. Seeing the elephants doing their tricks and people riding them. How many people thought, oh, I want to do that? That's so cool. You do?
No way.
No, I just thought that the elephants were so intelligent to do that.
Yeah, they're very smart. They're very smart. They know that they're not supposed to be doing this. This is unnatural. It's weird. Yeah.
Oh.
They're very emotional creatures. You can see them crying sometimes.
Aww.
It's very sad. Okay. So you see them standing on their hind legs. You'll also see them doing handstands and stuff, and you just going to the circus think it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah.
Then the big cats come out, and you see them jumping through hoops of fire and standing on their hind legs and white tigers. Very pretty, right? Very, very pretty. And they seem to do everything right on cue, as the trainer tells them to do it.
Mhm.
Right? You don't ever really see them being hit or anything like that. They just seem to do it.
Mhm.
So this was actually where I worked. This is Jürgen, and this is Judith Nerger, the 2 Germans I used to work for. And this was a small show that we did back where we used to take care of the cats. So you see them, they're doing the same thing that they would do at the circus. It's just basically at home. The guy who used to own the place, John Cuneo, would have guests and family come, and then they would put on a show for them. Basically where they're at right now is where they were trained when they were not performing for crowds. So every day they'd come out to this big arena, probably a little bit bigger than this room, and then they would train them to do the tricks that you see them do at the circus. This is where I used to work. This was my buddy Sharm. That's him again. Our lion Caesar. And then this is the meat that I used to cut up every morning. 1,200 pounds of meat. I used to clean out their cages for 4 hours a day.
Okay.
And I used to let them outside so that they could get some exercise. And then I would assist in training shows. And the only thing I had to keep me safe was a little stick. I used to carry a stick around. People used to make fun of me. Where's your stick? So in case they attacked one of the trainers, I had to then step into the cage with the stick and get the tiger off of the trainer. That was my job. And it wasn't until, I think it was July of 2009, I went on the road with them for the first time. I went to Maine for the Northern Maine State Fair. And that's when I saw them work 3 times a day, every day, 3 weeks straight. The cats would have to go out and do a show. But when we first got there, they had to let the cats acclimate because they had never seen grass before. And that broke my heart. You'd never seen grass before. So they didn't get confused during the show, the trainers had to let them each stay out for an hour when we first got there so that they can see the grass. Usually when they're home, they're in a small cage, probably about as long as this tiger, maybe just a foot longer, and that's the cage that they live in.
Oh
every
my
day.
gosh.
When they're on the road, it's a little different. There's two, or it can be anywhere from 1 to 2 to 4 tigers to a cage. And they're in these tiny little cages, you can see the row of them. And they're put into a semi-truck like this, and then there's doors on the side of the semi that will open upwards so that you can feed them, do a quick cage cleaning, or give them water, give them fresh air when you stop at a rest stop. And they stay in these cages for the entire time that they're out. Sometimes circuses will lease these animals for 3 to 6 months at a time. And these cats are kept in these cages for that long. So imagine being stuck in something smaller than your bathroom for 6 months at a time. That's sad. So a lot of times you would see crowds, they'll stand behind the red line, and they would throw things into the cages, trying to get the tigers to react, pay attention to them. But they're so tired from performing that it didn't faze them, they just kind of sat there. This is how we would move them around, by forklifts and four-wheelers, and we would pull the whole line of tiger cages behind it. And occasionally you would move them, but for the most part, if it was a stationary fair or circus, they didn't move for those 3 to 6 months. The cages just stayed right there. And this is Samson and Sheena, and that's them in the middle of the day. They just about fit the cage perfectly laying down together. So there's no room to stretch out or anything. It's not like we would take them down the street for a walk. They just sat in the cages. Now this is an elephant named Loda, who was at the place that I used to work, Hawthorne Corporation. And this, it's really hard to see. I should have made it a little bit bigger. These are the amounts of citations that this company received throughout the time that just the elephants were there. And they never got their license revoked for keeping the animals. These guys had 0, 0, 0, 0, and all of their licenses were revoked. And then at the end, after almost $250,000 in fines, 17 elephants were removed because of the way that they were kept. They were kept like this 24 hours a day, sometimes years on end. And it would drive them kind of mad. I mean, elephants range miles upon miles in the wild. So if you're kept in the same little area, you start to go a little crazy. This is the stuff that circus trainers don't want you to see. They don't want you to see how they kick them and beat them with rakes and bull hooks and numerous other objects in order to get them to do those tricks that we love so much at the circus. And because stuff like this started leaking out, is when people started to pay attention. And then more pictures get leaked out, and then people see more and more and more. And that's what starts the PETA and the animal activists into telling everybody, stop the circus, stop the circus. Tigers will either be beaten with long whips or with bamboo canes in order to get their tricks the way that they want them done. Actually, when we went to Maine, there was a new trainer who went in and he used a bamboo cane instead of a whip, which made 2 tigers attack him because they didn't know what it was unfamiliar. And while we were there, he had to go to the hospital, I think, for like 3 months because these 2 tigers attacked him. And the trainers, or the other people there, had to beat them off with the sticks. And the only part that was recorded was the people beating the tigers with baseball bats. Nobody ever showed him beating with the bamboo cane to make the tigers go so crazy. They tried to blame the tigers when really it was all of the trainers' fault. And white tigers are inbred over and over and over again because the white gene, the gene in the tigers that makes them white, is a natural mutation. So because so many people like the white tigers, the trainers will over inbreed them, which ends up having mistakes like this happen. This poor guy's actually pretty famous because he's so ugly. He's cute. And he lives a pretty happy life, to tell you the truth. He lives in a big cage, and he's, because they couldn't use him for the circus. He was too ugly for them. But the other cats that you don't see deformed like this have still been inbred through years and years and years, especially Ringling Brothers, because they had so many white tigers. Their white tigers actually came from, I forget where they came from, but they took 3 white tigers from where I worked. And those cats have been inbred for, I think, 3 generations of tigers. So they're also a little not right in the head. A lot of times they'll attack. I think it was Ringling Brothers who had the guy died from being attacked by a tiger. And then babies will be ripped away from their mamas in order to be held for pictures to make a profit off of them. But their immune systems are so horribly underdeveloped, they end up getting very, very, very sick, sometimes dying.
Oh,
Because the diseases that we carry will kill them off almost within weeks of just being held once or twice. And they're passed around from child to adult all day long during the entire circus or fair. Baby elephants will be taken away from their mothers in order to start training as soon as possible. A lot of times they won't be returned to their mothers either because the trainer wants a better relationship with them than they want the baby to have with the mother. That way the elephant will listen to the trainer all the time. This is Tyke. Tyke was an elephant who came from where I used to work. Tyke was a very rebellious elephant. Tyke didn't really like working in the circus. And Tyke had already gone crazy on a trainer 2 years before this happened. Tyke was pushed and pushed and pushed and used a bull hook, which is a giant rod with a big hook on it, and it digs into their flesh and picks at them. Tyke went crazy and attacked a trainer, and an assistant trainer came in to help, and the assistant trainer is actually the one that was killed because Tyke was so angry. They were warned, I think, by 4 or 5 different trainers not to let Tyke perform that day, and they didn't listen. They let her perform anyway. In which case, Tyke broke out of prison, broke out of the circus, and started running the streets in Honolulu. Tyke was shot over almost 100 times until Tyke finally died in the middle of the street. Oh no, it's not going. It was a really, really, really sad story. It happened in 1994, if anybody wants to look it up. But there's a documentary about Tyke. And that was one of the elephants that lived where I used to live, or where I used to work. And this is what happens when animals are pushed to the brink. You'll hear about it every once in a great while in the news about how an elephant that went crazy and started running through the streets.
Not only animals, humans.
Well, they're about maybe. Or tigers that just attacked their trainers. But it's because they're pushed to do these things that they're not naturally meant to do. Because of the elephants being treated so badly, animal activists helped to get them removed from the circus May of last year. Well, because that happened, Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey are blaming them for their ticket sales dropping because elephants aren't there anymore. People don't want to go to the circus because the elephants aren't there. So as of this year, May, Ringling Brothers is closing. It's no longer there, which is good news. A lot of people are upset about it or mad about it, but they don't know the full story behind the horrible things that happen in the background of the circus. Then there's the Wild Animal Sanctuary in Keensburg, Colorado. It's not even an hour from here. And all of the animals that are here have been rescued either from circuses or from private owners. They all live in these great, big, huge, I forget what they're called. Enclosures, thank you. This is a pride of lions right here. That's I think, somewhere around 10 lions. And there's a big male sitting over here. You can't see it very well. But that was the whole point, was to show you just how big it is compared to these tiny little cages that they're raised in. This is where they're finishing out their lives because they were taken from the circuses that were mistreating them. Here's some more happy lions. Just kind of lounging about. You didn't see any of them acting like this in those cages.
They have grass.
Yeah. Yes, they have grass. They have tall grass. They have big things they can jump on. They've got great people that take care of them, and they all have a special story. You should visit, because when you visit, the money that you pay to go in to see these animals goes to help the animals,
care for
and you
them.
also put a small donation in towards the animals. So it helps people take care of them. This is where tigers should be, not in the circus. And everybody can help. If you can't afford to go to the sanctuary, you can't afford to donate money to help animals, that's fine. Help by not going to the circus. Help by not going to see these animals at fairs and at carnivals where they're kept for our enjoyment, when we can go see them acting the way that they're supposed to act at places like the Wild Animal Sanctuary. And I'm done. I feel really proud of myself. I'm on fire. That thing blows hot air right on
Yeah.
me.
So really quick one thing.
Oh yeah, anybody have any questions?
Oh,
Yes,
I have,
Tracy?
I have a comment. In the circus pictures, how their ears are all pinned back and they're like leaning away, you know, it just shows how scared they are.
Yeah, think about your kitty. When you make your kitty mad, 'cause I know you do, we all know.
When I get the spray bottle?
Yeah, yeah, and they're immediately, and their ears are back,
Mhm.
that's like
How they
number
always look.
one, yeah.
In those pictures, yeah.
That's like number one, seeing how upset and angry and how uncomfortable they are.
Mm-hmm.
You make one small movement, I saw it once, you make one small movement, like there was a guy who was training tigers. He was in the middle of an arena and he fell backwards and he landed on the ground for a split second and got back up. It was too late. He already had 4 tigers on top of him.
Oh.
Like, it's dangerous. I mean, think about that. Do you want to bring your kids somewhere where they could possibly see something like that happen? How horrible is that? It's scary to think.
Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
That was a good presentation.
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
Very good
Thank you.
presentation.
We're not going,
You did
we're
great.
not going anymore.
I've never
ask
gone
who's
because
gonna go
I'm
to the
just
circus.
not.
Now you ask who's gonna
Yeah,
go.
now who's gonna go to the circus? You know
I've
Shriner
never-
Circus?
Oh.
All of their money goes to the Shriners Hospital.
Mhm.
They have a bear that they keep shackled constantly, and they have like a bulletproof glass in front of him. And he sits there and waits, and you take your kid or your husband or whoever, and you sit down in front of the glass, and then they poke the bear until he makes it look like he's gonna attack you.
Oh,
So
God.
that you can get a picture of this bear behind you, but you can't really see the glass.
Mhm.
That's not right. Even though their money is going to a good thing, they're not doing it the right way.
Let me stop this.
Yes, stop that.
Yes.
It stopped. Oh, is it stopped? No, it's not.
I think